Hi guys, and welcome to the second part of the video series on exfoliative cheilitis, moisturizers and lip balms. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make your own lip balm. As I think I've mentioned before, I currently use CeraVe Healing Ointment for my outer lips. Previously I used to use a coconut oil and beeswax lip balm for my inner lips, but I'm not currently using that. I do sometimes use a Vaseline and coconut oil lip balm that is sort of at like a 50% ratio for my outer lips, especially when they start to look a bit soggy, or the hardened skin on the outer lips maybe looks a bit white. But I most consistently use this CeraVe Healing Ointment. Nevertheless, I think it's really a good idea, nevertheless I think it's really useful for you to know how to make your own lip balm, because basically you can tailor the balm to your own individual needs. You can control the consistency of the balm, and especially if you have some problems with allergies, store-bought balms often have a lot of ingredients, and while you might be able to tolerate a lot of the ingredients in the balm, maybe there's just one specific problematic ingredient of the balm which makes it unusable for you. So therefore I think it's really good to know how to make your own lip balm when you have like a long-term skin condition like exfoliative cheilitis. So today I'm just going to be making a simple coconut oil and beeswax lip balm. As I said, these are the only ingredients that I'm going to include in the balm, but you can pretty much include any ingredients that are commonly found in lip balms on the market in your lip balm, if you so choose. It's really basically the method of heating the ingredients and putting them into the containers that I wanted to show you. So I'll see you in the second part of the video. Here I've prepared some of the things that you're going to need to make a balm. You won't necessarily need all of these ingredients. I just wanted to show some of the things you could potentially use to make your own balm. Today I'm just going to be using this coconut oil, this extra virgin coconut oil that is 100% raw pressed, which I think is important when making skincare with coconut oil. And the other thing that we're going to be using are these white beeswax pellets by Livermore, but many brands do these, and I bought these online. And oftentimes beeswax is yellow in colour, but the white variety is like filtered for a higher level of purity, so there's less potential irritants in it. And the other thing that I might be using is this jojoba oil. Yeah, so I mean this is a good occlusive. It's actually a wax, but it's quite rare for wax because it's sort of like liquid at room temperature. So yeah, those are the things I'm going to be using to make my balm. But other things that you could potentially use are shea butter. Apparently this is the unrefined organic shea butter. Again, I think it's important for making skincare, but apparently shea butter is like a natural source of ceramides, which I mentioned are like components of the human skin barrier, so that could be a good thing to use. And these ingredients I've all listed are actually quite commonly used in commercial skincare, but oftentimes commercial skincare get the most, the cheapest quality ingredients. So you know, by selecting your own ones like this, you can really make sure that you know exactly what's going into the balm. And then another thing that you could potentially use is the mineral oil, which is basically, this one is certified. Like, if you get mineral oil, you have to make sure that it has this BP grade, because this means that it's just like safe to use in skincare. And another thing that you could use is petroleum jelly. And many people I've seen online have negative things to say about petroleum jelly, but actually dermatologists widely believe that petroleum jelly is like the best moisturizer, or the best individual ingredient in moisturizers, because it blocks a very high amount of water loss from the skin, and it's also one of the most like researched substances like in medicine. You know, many other skincare ingredients don't have anywhere near as much research behind them as petroleum jelly, so the safety, efficacy of those preparations, you know, like even some that I'm using here, is not to say that they're safe, but coconut oil has comparatively little research on it as a skincare ingredient than petroleum jelly, and basically no studies suggest that petroleum jelly has negative effects on the skin. Quite the contrary. There can be the case of like when you use the unrefined or like unpurified versions of petroleum jelly. There's sometimes, you know, cheap products, you know, as I said, they go for the cheapest option, and they don't use these kinds of highly purified kinds, and it's sort of like actually the contaminants which can have a negative effect on the skin. But this one is white petroleum jelly, and the white colour, similar to the beeswax, means that it's been more intensely purified, so contaminants won't be in it. So anyway, that's a little bit about those ingredients. And in terms of what we're actually going to need now to make the balm, we need some kind of containers. So there's two actual methods of melting the ingredients to make the balm. One method is actually in the microwave, and in order to melt the ingredients, what you'll need is a microwave safe container like this one, which I actually got, you know, I bought some kind of like ready-made food, you know, at the supermarket, and it came in this, and I've cleaned it out and sanitized it, and it's quite good because it's got like a little top on there, so you can clip that in, and basically you could just measure out the ingredients, stick it in there, and blitz it for a very short amount of time in the microwave, and after you're finished and the ingredients are liquid, you can transfer it to a container like this. Okay, but we're not beginner using that method today. But so what I've bought is these kinds of containers, and I bought these like in bulk online, and they were actually like incredibly cheap. I think it was like 99p, which is equivalent to about $2 or so, for like 6, which I mean I think is quite good value. But you know, if you didn't, there's no real reason to have something like this. You could use, for example, like empty cleaned out Vaseline tins that you probably have lying around, or you could for example, like if you have like a honey jar, an empty honey jar, or any kind of jar like that is quite small and easy to take around, you could clean it out and sanitize it and use that instead. Yeah, so to make the balm on the stove, we are going to need a saucepan that has a tiny amount of water in it, and then you're also going to need some kind of container that is safe to heat. Like they basically generally use, like, I think they're called like double boilers for doing that, but I haven't got one of those, and you don't really need one. So what I use is this kind of just like ceramic dish, and it's, you know, it's okay to heat it to the fairly low level that we're going to need to heat things. And okay, another thing that you probably potentially will need is like an electric scale. Is actually, you know, okay. So another thing that you potentially need is like an electric scale. So you don't necessarily need an electric scale, but when you're making small quantities of ingredients, it's definitely easier to measure out small quantities with an electric scale than there is more conventional scale. But you know, you can really just like measure things out with spoons and as well, but you know, it becomes a bit harder to remember the formula and get exact amounts that way. So anyway, I'm going to be using this electric scale today to measure out the ingredients. And so the preparation that I'm going to be making, which I've made before and I've actually found worked well for my inner lips, although I haven't been using that as frequently at the moment, but I just wanted to show how to make this because some people were interested in it. Is 5% white beeswax and 95% coconut oil. And the reason that we add the beeswax to the coconut oil is because, like I mentioned in the first part of the video, moisturizers are in like different classes or different categories, and coconut oil is an emollient. So it's basically, it's not very strongly occlusive. It's not going to add a lot of hydration to your skin because it doesn't prevent water evaporation unless you use it a lot. But what is an occlusive is the white beeswax. So effectively, by adding some of the white beeswax to the coconut oil, you enable the coconut oil to stay on the skin longer, and it just like increases the you know, the occlusive aspect of the balm. So yeah, it's more highly moisturizing. Okay, so in order to measure out the ingredients then, you need effectively like a little dish. So I'm going to just like measure them out now, actually, because it's kind of hard to hold the camera and measure out the ingredients at the same time. So yeah, I've measured out the ingredients now, and using this little spoon, which is really useful, but I think it came as part of again some food that I bought at the supermarket. I just washed it and sanitized it. But yeah, so in terms of the measurement in spoons, this was 2 heaped tablespoons of coconut oil and around 45 pellets of white beeswax. But I mean, the pellets might vary a little bit in size between companies, so I don't know how accurate that is going to be in terms of the same ratio, but it probably will be pretty much accurate. So this is 5% white beeswax and 95% coconut oil. But I'm going to go ahead and add like a tiny amount of jojoba oil to it as well, because it's just nice, and I just want to add, you know, just try something a bit different to see if this could do anything. Sorry, it's quite hard for me to hold the camera and do this kind of stuff at the same time. So yeah, I think I'm going to add 2 of these. Okay, and now we need to transfer these to the boil. and it should be like on a simmering heat. It's fine to have any kind of pan. The thing is, you want to add only a really tiny amount of water to the pan. Like I'll show you in a bit, and because you don't want to like immerse this, you just want the water level to be coming up to around here. So it's basically just like so the bottom of this doesn't get burnt in any way. But yeah, and you don't want the water to be kind of like leaping over into the mixture, so I think it's good to put it on a very low heat. So I'll just go and do that now. So while it's cooking, you should have something that looks a bit like this. You see how there's just a very small amount of water in there, and it's on medium heat. I might actually turn it down a bit if it starts to look like it's going to boil too much, but that's all you need. And then you just basically wait as long as all the ingredients. And so when it's ready to come out, it should look a bit like this. And you can see all the mixture is totally melted. And to be honest, I would probably give it a stir at this point. Okay, so it's now been taken out of the stove, taken off. It's quite challenging to take it off and not tip the contents in the process or spill some water into it, and you've got to make sure you don't burn yourself. So I recommend using an oven safe glove, and also just letting it cool slightly before you take it out of the water. So now I'm going to transfer it to the pot, and I'll just be back in a sec when I've done that. Now it's been transferred to the container. You can either just like let it to cool at room temperature for several hours, maybe even overnight, or you can transfer it to a fridge to cool it quicker. And I'm just going to transfer it to the fridge because I'm quite impatient. So, okay. And you should end up with something like this after the balm cools. Yeah, so I think it looks quite nice. Surface is quite shiny. I'm always quite pleased with this one. But yeah, so it doesn't look vastly worse than like a store-bought balms, and it's got a convenient screw on top. So thanks a lot for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you know, the techniques I showed you can help you move further in, you know, your journey with exfoliative chelitis. Okay, see you again.